It's a beautiful Thursday morning in the city of Lagos, southwest Nigeria. My name is Dablola Okunshaki, and this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. Now let's move straight to the front pages of the dailies. And this morning I'm starting with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with Okowa Oshiomhole clash over poll violence allegation. Governors contribute to election violence. AK-47 not cheap like beans cake. That's according to Oshiomhole. I don't know what Oshiomhole is talking about. Okowa is saying it, says that we don't perpetrate violence. We don't discuss politics. That's coming from NGF. A federal government slow in curtailing terrorism. That's according to ACF. Warns politicians against rigging thuggery. You can see that on page 5. And here we have a photo story showing the trained kidnapped victims. And of course, the writer is saying a close-up of 22 of the 23 remaining victims of the Abuja-Kaduna train kidnapped after their release yesterday. And of course, that's is followed with a story on page 7 that says the terrorists released 23 remaining Abuja-Kaduna train attack victims. Now on page 9, we have strike. Appeal court attacks federal government ASU to resolve dispute out of court. Senate approves the 2023 to 2025 MTF and FSP kicks against the 1.7 trillion naira subsidy recommendation. On page 4, Anambra, 70-year-old found dead in his flooded bedroom. On page 12, climate change, NEDC sensitizes women on use of energy efficient stoves. Now, stories above. On page 4, we have youth chase workers away as Kogi seals Dangote cement factory. 7 workers shot as vigilantes invade plant. That's according to management. Otedola's Gerugu Power PLC becomes first genco to list on NGX. On page 8 still, we have Catholic Church yet to decide on APC's same-faith ticket. That's according to Cardinal Onayekon. And of course, lastly on the front page of Vanguard, we have on page 19, OPEC Plus slashes Nigeria's oil quota by 4.6% to 1.742 MBD. You can see that on page 19. But that's all we have on the front page of Vanguard. Now let's move away from Vanguard and check what the Punch is leading with. The Punch this morning is leading with INEC governorship list. Litigation kicks 14 APC, PDP Labour Party candidates out. Parties faced court cases in Ebonyi, Akwa Ibom, Enugu, and 6 others. Commission okays Sanwo-Olu, Abiodun, Makinde, 834 others. Senate confirms 19 recs. Atiku, Okowa, and Bauchi received defectors. Now, and of course, we have same photo story here showing the victims of the train attack and them being released, and of course them joining their families. Now on pages 4 and 5, we have Lagos church dog stray bite passerby to death. Ebola deadlier than COVID-19, heightened surveillance, warned the virologists. You can see that on page 12. Stories above, we had American Danish scientists share 2022 Nobel Chemistry Prize. You can see that on page 27. Teachers Day, NUT 6 better deal knocks governors. You can see that on page 13. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, we have Senate approves 2023 expenditure. Okay, is a $73 per barrel oil price. And you can see that on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. Now, away from there, let's move to The Guardian. The Guardian this morning is leading with regulation. Policy frustrates 14,120 megawatts hydropower. $7.1 billion hydropower emerge as stakeholders kick against borrowings. Nation's electricity emission worries experts amid energy transitions. Buhari's electricity infrastructure expansion to serve Abuja for 50 years, says the federal government. 1,465 megawatt transmission line, 870 megawatt transformers to be commissioned in December, says the TCN. You can see that story on the front page, and it continues on page 6. On page 7, we have Akwa Ibom APC as no governorship candidate for 2023 elections, INEC declares. 7 workers allegedly shot as Kogi seals Dangote factories at Obajano. We have a federal government secures release of 23 remaining Kaduna train attack victims. Stories above, APC unsure of campaign flag off as ADAMU insists on power supremacy over PCC, and you can see that on page 6. And lastly, on The Guardian, we have appeal court to hear ASU's stay of execution suit today. You can see that on page 3 of The Guardian newspaper. And away from there, let's move to The Nation. The Nation this morning is leading with APC NWC, governors PCC members to unite for Tinubu. Flag bearer returns today. Southeast APC women hold rally in Owerri. Onayekon, ruling party chose the same faith ticket as winning strategy. Our parties can substitute candidates by INEC. You can see that on page 4. Buhari promises to restore teachers' pride. You can see that on page 6. Also, we have suspect held at Ogun or your brother. You can see that on page 5. Oshpopi faces 11 years in jail. You can see that on page 12. Also, Army court martial 68 officers and soldiers. Stories above, we have Lagos to riverine communities quit over flooding. You can see that on page 3. Also, we have 3 scientists win Nobel Prize in chemistry. Lastly, on the front page of The Nation newspaper, we have detractors of PDP will be disappointed, says IU. You can see that on page 5 of The Nation newspaper. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Join us after the break. All right, welcome back. If you are just joining me, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. I'm Damlola Ogunshaki. Joining me right now to talk about the ADAMU story is our correspondent, Omezia Ajayi. Good morning, Omezia.
Good morning, Damlola.
All right, thank you for joining us. But let's talk about this ADAMU stories. It said they will determine when to flag off campaigns, and of course we are aware that some parties have started campaigning. But of course, this is what APC is saying. Can you give us more details about this?
Well, you recall that the last time I spoke with the director of the media, Mr. Bayo, he had told us that they were going to start off in Abuja, the campaign in Abuja on October 10th, that's next Monday. And he also said that before now, he had actually started the campaign in several states, including Lagos, Kaduna, and so many other states. So the flag off in Abuja will now just be like a mere formality because the campaign council has said they've already started their own campaign. But yesterday, when we asked ADAMU to shed light on talk about the October 10th date, he said, because that yesterday he met with the governors and of course the presidential campaign council. He said that the party will come up with a timetable, in accordance with the electoral guidelines, and the party will do what it has to do based on the INEC test. So we are still waiting whether the party is going to go against the campaign council, which has already given those tentatively, which has already given October 10 for the flag off campaign.
But are there any issues in APC right now that might actually stop, this campaign from continuing? From starting rather.
Well, I do not think that there is any issue that can stop the campaign. It's like a moving train. The campaigns have started. Other parties have also not the campaign. And the only thing the council has said the Okowa sent date is tentative, meaning that they can decide to change that date. They gave that date on they presented that date uh, on the inauguration of the campaign council. That is, if the campaign council is not inaugurated before Monday, it therefore means that the likelihood of starting the Abuja campaign on Monday is not Chancellor no. So, but if they are able to inaugurate the campaign council between now and Saturday or between now and Sunday, then there is a likelihood that they are going to flag off the Abuja campaign on Monday. As it is, they had issues with the list, the composition of the campaign council. Initially, they released the 422 member list, but some people made a lot of noise that their nominees were not taken, including from state chapters of the party. And the list was withdrawn, and by now they added the populated card committee. I think in the coming days we are going to be seeing about 1,000 or well about 1,000 member campaign. So by the time they are able to inaugurate the committee, they are able to treat this in the coming that Nigeria is dynamic as campaign in Abuja will go on as planned.
There are also allegations of differences between Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Senator Adamu Abdullahi.
Oh, well, that has been in the realm of speculation, but of course, in the lead up to the presidential primary, we all know where every person, every citizen of the party, we know their stand. We remember where of course, they made a case for the president and Tinubu was also in the race, as of the time and the point so, in a way, of course, there be some issues, but I think in the interest or in the electoral interest of the APC, I think they want to keep over that issue. Politics is about interest. So individually they all have their interest. But now that it's a candidate, it means their interest is up to an eye.
All right, thank you very much, Obeze Ajayi, for joining us this morning. All right, welcome back. And joining me, of course, to talk about the terrorist attack and, of course, the victims who have been released is John Bosco Agbakoro. Good morning, John Bosco.
Good morning.
All right, we are aware that 23 of the remaining victims, the kidnapped victims, they've actually been released. Can you give us details of the story?
Yesterday, when the information, came to the knowledge of Mr. President, he was full of joy. When he got that information, that the 23 persons being held captives by the terrorist organization, that's the Boko Haram, the 23 of the police have been released. Remember, Mr. President had for a very long time directed the military that we should go after the people that adopted, the Nigerians. And they should make sure that these Nigerians are released unharmed. Even most of the meetings, security meetings in State House, that's always the information, the message Mr. President normally gives the security agencies. Make sure you release these people unharmed. So yesterday was a very happy day for Mr. President when the information got to him that the remaining 23 adoptees have been released.
All right, thank you very much, John Bosco, for this report. Now, Delta State Governor Okowa yesterday tackled the former Edo State Governor Oshiomhole over allegations by the latter that governors contribute to electoral violence in the country. Of course, this came on a day that the Arewa Consultative Forum cautioned against election rigging and the use of thugs during the forthcoming general election, even as it lamented that the federal government is too slow in curtailing terrorism in the country. Oshiomhole, who is also the Deputy Director General of the Presidential Campaign Council PCC of APC, alleged that a citizens' elections dialogue on the theme, of course, what a good election in Nigeria in Abuja on Tuesday. He blamed the governors for electoral violence witnessed in past elections. But Okowa is also the presidential running mate of PDP in the 2023 election, said governors never participated in electoral violence, saying maybe Oshiomhole did during his tenure as governor of Edo State. Oshiomhole noted that governors funded talks to perpetrate violence during polls, urged political leaders to support the effort of security operatives to ensure the 2023 elections are violence-free. Oshiomhole said, I quote, when I was a governor, I mean this, you can ask the former President Goodluck Jonathan. I did say at the meeting at the Villa that sometimes governors contribute to election violence because AK-47 is not as cheap as buying akara. Now, of course, to get more of that story, do well to visit our website, www.vanguardngr.com. You can see the details there. All right, let's look at our favorite couple, Mr. and Mrs. The first person speaking is Mr. You are a nice woman. You are not like other women who trouble their husband all the time for money. By the way, what's your favorite quote? And Mrs. replied, blessed is the hand that giveth. Of course, blessed is the hand that giveth. That's his Mrs. reply. This couple, you have to give it to them. They always give us the best every morning on the front page of Vanguard. Now, to get more of our top stories, you can follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, our WhatsApp number is also displayed on your screen. My name is Damilola Ogunshakin.